to a Monday edition of Bet. I'm Tyler Fulghum. She is Erin Dolan. We'll be running the two-person game for the next 30 minutes here on Bet, and it's a jam-packed, fun show. We got reaction or no action. Our boy Mike T is going to stop by, Erin. I'm not sure if you've heard, but Mike T and Monday Night Football go together like peanut butter and jelly. He is the Monday Night Messiah, no doubt about. We'll dabble in the association as well. Here is where our viewers can find all of our gambling content across all ESPN platforms, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting. But, Erin, it is 2022. Welcome into the new year. How did you celebrate? Do you have fun with friends and family, or were you still kind of recovering from 2021?
Tyler, I slept for 14 hours on New Year's Eve into New Year's. I had to get well rested for things like this.
14 hours? I haven't done that since my college days, and there may have been reasons why I was in bed for 14 hours.
NyQuil does it.
Knock you right on your derriere. All right, well, I hope you are fully energized. No NyQuil now because we need your energy and your fun for the next 30 minutes here. Let's get it started as we always do on a Monday edition of Bet with a little reaction or no action. I read a statement. You tell me if you agree or disagree by saying reaction or no action. My guy, my QB, Matt Stafford, will throw an interception in Week 18 against San Francisco, something he has done almost every week for the past month. Had two. One was a pick six against the Baltimore Ravens despite the Rams winning. So reaction or no action for another INT next week against the Niners?
I know it's your team, but I have to go reaction. Like you just said, he had two against the Baltimore Ravens. The week before that against Minnesota, he had three. There's only 6 games this season that Matthew Stafford did not throw an interception. So in 10 games he's actually had 15 interceptions so far this season. He's tied for the second most up there with Taylor Heineke and Josh Allen. Trevor Lawrence right now leading the league with the most interceptions per game. But I mean, how could I think he wouldn't have an interception against the San Francisco 49ers? I mean, these teams already met earlier in the season, and he threw 2 interceptions in that game. So why would I count on him to not throw an interception against the 49ers?
Yeah, I agree with you. Reaction, I think, is the play here, and you laid out why, probability-wise, he is more likely to, in a game this season, throw a pick than not. Go back to the last time he played this specific opponent, and there was 2 interceptions, albeit one was not necessarily his fault. It went right through the hands of Tyler Higbee on a little tunnel screen into the hands of a waiting 49ers defender. The other was a bad miscommunication on a deep shot to Odell Beckham during his first game with the L.A. Rams, where Beckham ran a different route, and it was basically just a can of corn for the safety to pick off way down the field, no other Rams near him. But that's part of the Matthew Stafford experience. He has supreme arm talent. He's seen every defense in the world. So he will try and force things. He will be hyper-aggressive. He will put the football in danger's way because he can get away with it on some circumstances with that arm talent and his ability to read defenses. Other times, this season especially, it has come back to bite him in the butt. So I will say reaction because I do think Stafford will be aggressive against this Niners defense as the Rams try and exercise some demons against San Francisco. Sean McVay has been beaten up by Kyle Shanahan and the Niners the last couple of seasons. So I think they'll be aggressive trying to get that win at home and secure that 2 seed in the NFC. All right, how about this game in the AFC, which will decide who is in and most likely who is out of the AFC playoff picture. Vegas hosting the Chargers in Week 18. The total is 48. Will, reaction or no action, Vegas and LA go over the total of 48?
No action. Now, I know the Rams can put up a lot of points. They're averaging 27 points per game this season. The Raiders are only averaging 21 points per game. I really think it's going to be the Raiders who aren't able to put up as many points in this one. They're only averaging 16 points in the last 5 games. Now, both teams are not great on defense. You have a Rams team that ranks 26 in defensive efficiency, allowing opponents 27 points per game. And then you have the Raiders who also, again, as I mentioned on defense, not great, 26th ranked, and they're only allowing opponents 25 points. So you're thinking that these two teams are going to be able to allow each other to put up a ton of points, but the Raiders, I don't think will be able to do that by any means in this game. So no action for me.
$5 in the jar, though. You said Rams when you meant Chargers, obviously the 2 LA teams. I've had to put $5 in the jar for saying the Oakland Raiders instead of the Las Vegas
here
Raiders.
We go.
These teams move around too damn much, Erin. I get it. So Las Vegas Raiders, LA Chargers. I'm going to say reaction that they do go. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say no action. Almost fooled our producer. I'm going to say no action. I think you are right, though, with the way that you are handicapping these two teams. The Raiders specifically, I know they've won 3 games in a row, but this Las Vegas offense hasn't been good for quite some time. Again, they won that game in Indy with just 23 points. I think it's been 2 months now where they've had one game where they've scored more than 2 touchdowns. Prior to that 23-point outburst on the road against the Colts, there had been 7 of 8 games where they scored 17 points or fewer. This offense is not good. Now, if Darren Waller comes back, maybe we have to revisit this, but I don't know if Waller is going to be available. I know that the Chargers are a team that plays to the under because Brandon Staley likes to give up yards but limit points and then just do enough on the offensive side to get a win unless the opponent is someone like Kansas City where he will be hyper aggressive. I think his aggressiveness will be curtailed a bit in this matchup against Vegas because he knows Vegas just can't put points on the board. They haven't done it for 2 months, so I agree with you. No action. 48 seems a little too high in this do-or-die game. I'm going under just like you are with the Raiders and the Chargers. Meanwhile, your Philadelphia Eagles, Miss Erin Dolan, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this line has shifted a lot here. There's been some concern that players from Philadelphia are going to be in COVID protocols, but there are new protocols now which may allow them to get out in time for the game on Sunday. But we're seeing this line kind of move all over the place because of that. Bottom line, let's take the spread out of this. Philadelphia's already in. We know Dallas is in. They can improve their stock in as far as NFC playoff seeding. Your Eagles will defeat Dallas outright. Reaction or no action?
I'm going reaction. How could I not do that with my Philadelphia Eagles, especially against the Dallas Cowboys? We're playing at home. Now, for Dallas, like you talked about, they're already in. And for me, I'm kind of thinking, why would you kind of even risk some of your starters in this game? We already have a wide receiver, Michael Gallup. He's out with an ACL tear. And it's kind of just, one of those games where I think they're coming into Philly. You already have things going. I mean, you lost last week to the Cardinals, so that's kind of an incentive to come and prove people wrong. But honestly, what really are you fighting for at that point? As for Philadelphia, I feel like they need to play their starters and play 100% no matter what, just because the Philadelphia Eagles have to keep that momentum going. And again, I mean, this is a huge matchup, and it's something that people are really excited about just because it's Eagles versus Cowboys. It's in Philly. I'm from Philly, so that's why I'm so excited about this. I know not a lot is riding on the line for this game, but nonetheless, I would say that, to take them on the money line is more exciting just because, like you mentioned with the COVID protocols, it is Monday. Things can happen before Saturday. And we saw this last week when I believe Carson Wentz on Monday went on the COVID-19 protocol list, and he was able to play on the game on Sunday. So we'll see what happens in terms of that.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you here, Homer. I'm going to no action here. I do think Dallas, especially coming off that disappointing home loss against Arizona in Week 17, is going to want some good momentum heading into the NFL postseason. As I have contended, I think Dallas's A game can be or is better than everyone else in the NFL's A game. But it's been a while since I've seen that from the Dallas Cowboys. So I imagine Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott have noticed the same, and they may want to kind of treat this as a playoff game to ramp up for when the playoffs actually start. And, of course, they love beating up on Philadelphia. These two teams would love to beat one another. They're one of the most hated rivals in all of the NFL. So I'm going to say no action, just thinking that the Cowboys are the stronger team and need a kind of a bounce back to get ready for the postseason. All right, reaction or no action in the books. That means, Erin, it is time to welcome the Monday Night Messiah, our guy Mike Tannenbaum, to bet. And Mike, we were chatting earlier on This Just In, and there's a bet already on the table between Mike T and I for what he expects in this Monday night game. We'll get to my picks in just a bit.
Tyler, just to be clear, that's the kitchen table.
The kitchen table, not the Monday night thing. The kitchen table. I had just a banana for breakfast, so my blood sugar may be low. Maybe that's why I went the opposite way of Mike T. Spoiler alert with my pick. If you hadn't heard, ladies and gents out there, Mike T. did go 2-2 last week, but that's all right. He's still 15-4 picking sides on Monday night. I repeat, he is 15-4
so impressive
on Monday night. We've had a few Tuesday games in there as well, but almost 80%, which is just crazy and wildly profitable for you if you've been tailing. So here's the scenario tonight, Mike T. You have the Browns in Pittsburgh. Browns opened as like a 3-point favorite. It swung all the way now to the Steelers being a 2.5-point favorite. Total is in the low 40s at 43. It is an outdoor, cold AFC North game. But you tell me how you're playing this game, Mike T, given the circumstances involved with the Browns eliminated and what has potentially been Roethlisberger's last ever home game at Heinz Field.
Yeah, I'm going with Pittsburgh, and I think they win this game because obviously there's a lot more on the line. Cleveland is eliminated. I've been there. You just don't have as much to play for. And I think this is their Super Bowl in terms of Pittsburgh's alive, Ben's last game. Hard for me to think they're going to lose at home. So I like them laying the points. The over-under, I'm going to pass on that, candidly, guys, because I've gone back and forth. I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game, but now I think whatever Ben Roethlisberger has, he's going to empty it tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if they played well, but I just don't trust their offense. So I don't feel great about the over-under either way on this, but I do like the Steelers.
I do agree with you there, Mike. Now, since we're talking about some of the quarterbacks, looking at some of the props, you have Ben Roethlisberger and Baker Mayfield to throw 2+ touchdowns at plus money. Do you think either of these quarterbacks will be able to throw 2+ touchdowns tonight?
I don't. I'm going to go under on both. Just given the conditions, we saw Adam Schefter do a live hit. It looked like the frozen tundra of the Green Bay going to Pittsburgh here. So I think it's going to be, maybe some rushing touchdowns. Najee Harris may have a couple more, but I think from a passing standpoint, I would go under on both of these quarterback props.
All right, Mike T, let's stay in the AFC and look at this playoff picture. Because of Kansas City's loss to Joe Burrow and the Bengals and Tennessee's victory, the Titans somehow, some way have the 1 seed, and they control it. All they have to do next week is beat the lowly Texans, and they are the 1 seed. That means Kansas City would not get that valuable bye. Despite that being the circumstance, in case they're still the favorite to win the Super Bowl, or the AFC, I should say, at plus 475. So given the fact now that it appears likely they won't get a first-round bye unless Tennessee stumbles, would you still pick them as a favorite to come out of the AFC?
I would. I just think when it's all said and done, taking Patrick Mahomes and a really improved defense. Obviously, they didn't play great yesterday. Cincinnati's going to score a lot of points on most teams. But in a one-game season, in the postseason, I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes over anybody else. And they very well may have to go on the road because Tennessee's done a remarkable job when you think about Julio Jones, Bud Dupree, and Derrick Henry being out for big parts of the season. It's remarkable they have the 1 seed. But in one game, if Kansas City does have to go in Tennessee, I still like the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl.
And Mike, the real drama in the AFC comes Sunday when the Raiders could take out the Chargers, get into the playoffs. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, after Tyler's going to give me a year's supply of avocado toast, maybe I'll just come out there and get the first batch of it, because I think Justin Herbert's going to lead the Chargers into Vegas and come out with a victory. I just think he's the better quarterback. They're the better team. I think Rich Bisaccia deserves a ton of credit to keep that team as focused as he has, given everything they've been through this season, is really remarkable. The fact that it's coming down to a 1-game season, they deserve a ton of credit. I just like Herbert a lot, and I like the Chargers, and I think they're going to win.
I do agree with you there, at least, Mike T. So from the breakfast table this morning on This Just In to his Monday Night Messiah appearance here on Bet, he's with Pittsburgh, and I guess that means a Primanti Brothers sandwich for dinner. If you're back in the Steelers, that Pittsburgh faithful sandwich with the fries and the coleslaw and the meats on there, I guess that's what's for dinner in Mike T's house tonight since he's back in the Steelers. Always love having you on, Mike T. Let's see if you can keep this heater going on Monday night, brother.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed to you, Mike Tannenbaum. What a great 2020 it was for him predicting Monday Night Football. I kind of spoiled the tease there, as it's our turn now, Erin, to pick what side we are on in some props in this Monday night affair. He is on the Steelers. His handicapping, which has been tight and strong all season on Monday night, says home game, jacked up environment, still alive for the postseason, Big Ben's last ride. He is going to take the Steelers despite this crazy line move because of the circumstance of the Browns being out of the postseason. I'm on the other side, and if you didn't catch it, what Mike T said, we made this bet on This Just In. Whoever wins or loses this bet, if I lose, I have to give Mike T a year's worth supply of avocado toast for free, since he saw me make that one time on This Just In and thought it looked like a good breakfast. So I'm on Cleveland in the under. I like Mike T. I don't love the total as much as I love the side. I like the Cleveland side. I just feel like I'm getting those 5 points of value based on some circumstances that are being overblown. I know the Browns can't get into the postseason, but I really do think, Erin, that they will take a lot of pleasure in ending the season for their division rival Pittsburgh Steelers. And Ben Roethlisberger, a quarterback who has handed them so many losses over the years. It won't feel exactly the same as going into Pittsburgh last year during the postseason and hammering the Steelers, but given the circumstances, it'll feel about as good as possible for this team, knowing they can't make the playoffs, to spoil the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I will take the 2.5 points. Head start on the scoreboard with the Browns, slight lean to the under, just thinking it's a classic AFC North cold weather game where both quarterbacks who have struggled all year long continue to do so in this matchup. How are you looking at a game script for side and total?
Yeah, so I'm staying away from the traditional markets. I'm going to bet in some props, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I just think seeing how big this swing is, I mean, is Ben Roethlisberger worth this many points just because it could be his last career game? You talked about this morning on the Daily Wager podcast. The Cleveland Browns aren't just going to roll over and be like, here you go, you can take it. We already had a terrible season, yada, yada. They have to win the next two games to even hit over 500. I'm sure the Cleveland Browns want to do that. So for me, I'm definitely with the spread, staying away from it. I just think it's been moving around way too much. And as for the total, I mean, both these teams trend towards the under, so I feel like that's an easy play. But again, definitely going to be betting some props in this one.
Well, then let's have the people know what those props are. Let's not waste any time. We know you love this market because there's a lot less uncertainty and fewer variables to deal with. So when looking at some players that you think you can exploit in this prop market for Monday night, what do you like?
So I really liked at the beginning of the week Nick Chubb over for his rushing yards. And again, some of these props didn't come out till today. So I've been monitoring it and looking at it. And the only market I was able to find for Nick Chubb was him to go his alternate lines at 70 plus was actually a plus money in the last 2 days, which was surprising. And then they posted this line at 80, I believe 8.5. It's now at 89.5. So I'm going to go under on this one. The last time these two teams met, he only had 16 carries for 61 yards. And I know Cleveland ranks third in rushing yards per game, putting up an average 145 yards per game. But the Steelers, again, they're dead last, so I think that he could obviously have a great night. I just think they've limited him before, and I wouldn't be surprised if Baker Mayfield was really trying to throw the ball in this one and kind of redeem himself after some of his most recent performances.
Yeah, and I see that you have a first half total that you want to discuss there. Kind of correlates with what I was saying, the under, which you were saying. You're just going to chop off the last 30 minutes of the game and potentially overtime where things can get hairy for an under. But you like under 21 in the first half. Why?
Yes, I do like that because the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last 5 games have averaged 2 points in the first half. They haven't thrown a touchdown since November 21st against the Chargers. So for me, I'm definitely going to, both these teams start out slow, and Ben Roethlisberger doesn't really come alive to that fourth quarter there. So I think just instead of playing the traditional 3 markets, I think you go to some of the, prop markets. You're able to kind of correlate things. So I definitely like the first half under for this game.
Yeah, well, when you are Ben Roethlisberger's age, it takes a while to crank that engine up, especially in cold weather. So it's not like an electric start, not like a Tesla, like a young Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. It takes about 30, 45 minutes to get that old thing cranked up before we can start going. So I'm with you there. One of my props kind of correlates with that, what you were mentioning about Roethlisberger and his slow starts, and that's him under 241.5 pass yards. He's been under this total in 3 of his last 4 games. The only time he went over was that crazy island game they played against Minnesota inside the dome, where Roethlisberger in the second half started throwing the ball over the yard and got some big plays from his wide receiver. But that was a domed environment. The other 3 games in that 4-game stretch were December games in cold weather outdoors. Heinz Field does not have a roof, Erin, if you've never been to Pittsburgh. So it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, it's going to be chilly, and I don't think Roethlisberger is going to have much success throwing the football against this Cleveland defense, which is a little short-handed on the back end, but still has guys like Myles Garrett against a bad offensive line that can put a lot of pressure on Big Ben, and we know how he kind of crumples these days under pressure. We are at odds, though, just like Mike T and I were on Nick Chubb. I'm going to go over 89.5, and I understand the under. This is a high number. I mean, you don't like betting overs when you're in the upper 80s, lower 90s. But my assumption of rational coaching is Kevin Stefanski should give the ball 20, 25 times to Nick Chubb. That's their best offensive weapon. That is the best avenue of beating a Pittsburgh team. It aligns their strength on offense, Chubb and the offensive line, with the weakness of the Steelers on defense, which is stopping the run. Remember what Dalvin Cook did in that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers? He wasn't even being touched to like 10, 12 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. So if they can get that kind of blocking, and if the game doesn't get out of hand, meaning Baker has to throw it, which I don't think it will. I don't think Ben Roethlisberger is going to put up 30 points in the first half. I think they'll be able to keep the clock moving and feed Nick Chubb. So I'll go over 89.5 there, but again, that is a dangerously high total even for someone like Nick Chubb.
Yes.
Monday Night Football, we've said enough. Let's move to the association here at the final 10 minutes of our show, Erin, and talk the MVP market, which is rather interesting. All year long, it's been Steph and KD at the top of the MVP list. For good reason. Steph's been balling. He's set records. KD has been hooping. And those are two of the best teams in the NBA. Steph and the Warriors out west, Durant and the Nets in the East, and they have that narrative as well, Durant especially, that he's had to carry that load alongside James Harden, but without Kyrie Irving the entire season, and even Harden started the season slow. You see some of the other names that are within striking distance: Giannis, Jokic, the reigning MVP, LeBron, DeMar, and your guy Joel Embiid. Would you, if I asked you right now, take Steph and KD or the field for a bet at MVP as we are now into the 2022 calendar year?
Well, of course, I'd have to know the odds for that. But yes, I would. I mean, I think either one of these players is going to win it. We've been seeing that all season. That line continues to move down. You have KD number 1 in scoring. Steph's number 3. Steph's also the number 1 scorer in terms of three-pointers made per game at a staggering 5.4%. Nobody's even coming close to him in terms of three-pointers made per game. And I just think, like you mentioned, you have, KD, the Brooklyn Nets. They're great out east. And you have, Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, who are definitely a fan favorite and obviously at this point a real contender in terms of winning it all. So for me, I would definitely take both of them combined versus the field for sure.
Okay, how about this question and this hypothetical? If you were to take the field, what player do you think would be the biggest threat within that field to KD or Curry for the MVP?
Well, one thing with futures markets is you could really throw darts here, and I actually love DeMar DeRozan. He's been heating up. He had 2 game-winning shots in the last 2 games, which is insane, but it hasn't just been that. I mean, the man has been moving up the board all season long. Again, taking a long shot in this position. He's averaging 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's actually ranked 15th right now in the league in rebounding, so he's not a Giannis, he's not a Jokic, he's not a Joel Embiid, and I understand that, but at the same time, he's been moving up a lot, and if you want to grab him at, I believe those odds are 30-1 right now, then I feel like it's a really good long shot to take.
I tell you what, his addition to that team has turned them into a legit playoff contender and a legit kind of Eastern Conference contender alongside Lonzo Ball as well, who's been good with Zach LaVine and their big man Nikola Vucevic. But DeMar DeRozan certainly playing at that MVP level. Aaron, would take the field. I would say, you know what, not enough value on Steph and KD combined. I'll take the field. I think there's a couple of reasons as to why Steph and KD could fall back to the pack. Most notably, and hopefully it doesn't happen, injury and or COVID concerns. And Kevin Durant now is going to be getting back Kyrie Irving. So now there's going to be the 3-headed monster there. KD's numbers are likely going to take a pretty big hit. So I think of those two, Curry's the most likely, but he's also getting Klay Thompson back. Do his numbers drop off? I think both teams will keep on winning, but I'm wondering if the numbers are going to take a little bit of a backseat because of the players that are going to be reintroduced to their lineups. Bottom line is, if I'm looking in the field, Nikola Jokic at 14-1. He's playing better this season than he did last year. I know the Nuggets aren't winning a lot of games, but my God, have you seen who Jokic is taking the floor with? That, to me, makes him even more valuable. This team wouldn't even be close to 500 without Jokic. They may be the worst team in the NBA. He has the highest player efficiency rating in the NBA this season. If he ends with it, it'd be the highest ever. Higher than Giannis, MJ, LeBron, Wilt Chamberlain. That, to me, screams value for Nikola Jokic. It's a shame the Nuggets aren't winning as much because I think he's getting overlooked. But, my God, he has been even better than he was last year when he won the MVP. That's why I'd throw a dart on him at 14-1. All right, speaking of the association,
yeah, makes sense.
I hope maybe I had you considering Jokic there a little bit. Maybe
No, it does. It's a good one.
We'll see. We have 3 games. 3 games we want to talk about on the 9-game slate. And the aforementioned KD and the Nets. Kyrie won't be able to play since the game is in Brooklyn. But KD and Harden will be available. Welcoming the Grizz to town, Aaron. The Nets laying 6.5, total of 228.5. We've got a 7:30 Eastern tip-off. How you leaning in this one?
So I like the Grizzlies with the points in this one. You have a Nets team that has been struggling over the last couple of games. Even though KD and James Harden have been playing well, they lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, and they followed it up with a bad loss to the Clippers where they had a 13-point lead at one point. And I just think that the Brooklyn Nets, when they're pressed against good teams, they haven't been great. They're 0-6 against teams in the Eastern Conference like the Bucks, the Heat, Golden State, Phoenix. Sorry, they're also in the West. But just in general, they haven't been playing well, and I just think the Grizzlies, they obviously have been much better. They're 11-5 against the spread on the road compared to Brooklyn. That's 5-13 against the spread at home. So for me, I'm definitely taking the points.
All right, you got me on your side for this one. I like the Grizzlies and the points as well. 6.5, just a little bit too much for a Grizzlies team that has the 5th best cover rate in the NBA this season. They've been awesome all year long, whether Ja's been in or out of the lineup. They are 22 and 15 ATS, which, again, 5th best cover percentage in the NBA. And what I really love about this spot is that the Nets are at home. And Aaron, Brooklyn at home this season is 3-13-1 ATS. That is less than a 20% cover rate at home for the Brooklyn Nets. For whatever reason, and my theory is the market's overvaluing them because it's the Nets and they're playing at home. They're just having to lay too many points relative to their competition. And this is good competition coming to Barclays tonight. So I like the Grizzlies plus the point because the Brooklyn Nets are the worst covered team at home in the NBA, less than 19%. Yep. Nuggets and Mavericks. Here's a good one with Doncic versus Jokic. You got the Mavs at home laying 2.5, total of 213.5. I hear you're in the prop market when it comes to this matchup. What you got?
Yes, Will Barton over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, I know this seems high for a player like Will Barton. And then you have a Nuggets team that's a Mavericks team that's pretty good on defense. They're ranked 4th right now. The last time the Nuggets were able to face a tough defensive team was the Warriors, who ranked number 1. And Will Barton was able to go over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists, sort over that. So for this game, I kind of wanted to look at a player prop instead of looking at the spread, just because the Mavs are on a back-to-back, and Luka Doncic obviously back in after missing 23 games. So I kind of wanted to see how he plays for the first couple of games.
Yeah, I understand that trepidation towards the side. I'm going to stay away from it, too. I'm going to attack that total, which has come down a little bit from this morning, so I think I'm on the right track with where the market is heading, but I'll still play the under 213.5. It starts with Dallas. Dallas is one of the best under teams in the NBA at 22-12-2 to the under. Only the Golden State Warriors have a marginally better under percentage than do the Dallas Mavericks. They just play very slow. So, too, does the Denver Nuggets, because without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr., without all these guys who've been in and out of the lineup for the Nuggets, Jokic is the centerpiece on both ends of the floor, and you can't have him sprinting up and down for 38 to 40 minutes a night. They'll wear him out. So he has to be methodical. The Nuggets have to be methodical. The Mavs prefer to play methodically. That's why they're the 2nd best under team in the NBA this season. As a matter of fact, when they're at home, they're the best under team in the NBA this season, and that is the circumstance here. 11-4-1 to the under. This is the best under rate at home of any team in the association. So I'll play 213.5 under, even though it is coming down slightly so far from the earlier in the day. Final matchup to discuss: Miami Heat visiting San Francisco to take on the Golden State Warriors. Warriors getting Draymond back. They're laying 11. Still a lot of bodies missing from Eric Spoelstra's rotation. Total of 217. How are you going to play this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, you already mentioned Draymond Green, so that's the player prop that I'm going with tonight, over 15.5 rebounds and assists. He's averaging 9 rebounds in the season and 8 assists, and I just think he'll be able to go over this. He's been so impactful for this team. He's hit over this number in 3 of 5 games. He missed the last 2 games due to health and safety protocols, and we saw how the Warriors struggled just a little bit without him in the lineup, and I think he is such a big piece of that team. So having him back and going against this Heat team that hasn't been playing great. I know that they're good on defense. They rank 3rd right now, but they're 11th in the league in terms of assists allowed per game. So I think that Draymond Green will, again, be able to hit over 15.5, and I'm excited to see him back on the floor for this Warriors team.
Yeah, Aaron, Draymond's return to the lineup is a big part of my handicapping for my official play in this game. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Dallas how they're the 2nd best under team in the NBA, and I kind of gave away the tease there. The best under team in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors. But how I'm going to tackle this matchup specifically is the Heat team total under 102.5. The Heat are without Bam Adebayo and a lot of key rotation pieces. They're on the 2nd game of a back-to-back after taking on Sacramento last night, so they didn't have to travel far, but they're still very far away from home in South Beach. And Draymond's return to the Golden State lineup returns the most important piece to what has developed or built Golden State into the #1 defensive team in the NBA. It's Draymond Green and his ability to man the paint, play center field, switch, and do all the things he does. Now that he is back, this defense should be as good as it has been all season long. The offense for the Heat is not going to be as good as it normally is without their key rotation pieces. They're on the 2nd leg of a back-to-back, so legs might be tired. That's why I think the Heat struggle offensively in this one. I'll take them under 102.5. The only reason I didn't play the total under 217 is I'm worried about the Warriors with Draymond back having like 130 points themselves and pushing that thing over even though the Heat don't contribute much. So I think the Heat stay under their total of 102.5 because Draymond is back. And we are back on Bet Thursday. Welcome into 2022. Hope you enjoyed this Monday edition. For Erin Dolan and Mike T, the Monday Messiah, I am Tyler Fulghum. Enjoy Monday Night Football, and we'll see you on Thursday.